If you make $150,000 a year and still check your bank account before buying something, you're not rich, you're expensive. And there's a huge difference. And expensive people panic quietly. Let me guess. You have a good job, maybe two incomes in the household. You live in a decent area. You drive something respectable, not crazy, just normal for your level. But somehow, the money disappears, the mortgage, the car payments, insurance, eating out because you're exhausted, subscriptions you barely use, and at the end of the month, you're not broke, but you're not building real wealth either. Here's the uncomfortable truth. $150,000 a year doesn't make you wealthy. It makes you stable enough to afford a very expensive lifestyle that keeps you dependent on your next paycheck. You don't feel rich because you don't own much that pays you back. You own things that cost you every single month. That's not wealth, that's maintenance. I'm Peter. I study how income turns into wealth and why for most people it doesn't. And if you're making $150,000 a year and still feel stuck, this is going to make sense. In this video, I'm going to break down 1. Where the $150,000 actually goes. 2. Why high earners feel stuck. 3. And the shift that turns income into freedom, because the problem isn't your salary, it's what that salary is supporting. Let's break it down. $150,000 a year sounds big, but after federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, Medicare, you're not taking home $150,000. In many states, you're keeping something closer to $100,000 to $110,000. That's already a 30 to 35% haircut, and we haven't even started living yet. Now divide that by 12. You're looking at roughly $8,500 to $9,000 a month. Mortgage or rent in a decent area, $3,000. 2 car payments, $1,200. Insurance, health, auto, home, another $1,000 plus. Utilities, internet, phones, $500 to $700. Groceries for a family, $800 to $1,200. Childcare or private school, $1,000 to $2,000. And suddenly, that $9,000 doesn't feel very powerful. I've seen this over and over. A couple making $160,000 combined. Nice home, 2 good cars, vacations on Instagram, and less than 3 months of runway. 1 layoff away from stress. You're not irresponsible. These are normal middle-class expenses. That's the trap. Nothing looks extreme. It just adds up quietly. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because when you make $150,000, you don't feel poor enough to panic, but you don't feel secure enough to relax. You're in financial limbo. Too successful to feel broke, too dependent to feel free. So if the income isn't the problem, what is? In the next part, I'll show you why high earners feel stuck, even when their salary keeps going up. The biggest problem with making $150,000 a year isn't your expenses, it's your confidence. Because once you hit 6 figures, you stop thinking like someone building wealth and start thinking like someone who made it. You upgrade the apartment, not because you're reckless, but because you deserve it. You upgrade the car because now it fits your level. You eat out more, travel more, spend more on convenience because your time feels more valuable. But here's the shift nobody talks about. Your income went up, but your fixed expenses went up with it, and fixed expenses are chains. Chains don't feel heavy until you try to move. They don't care how motivated you are. When you were making $60,000, losing your job was terrifying. But your lifestyle was flexible. At $150,000, losing your job is still terrifying. But now your lifestyle is expensive to maintain. High income doesn't create freedom. High income creates comfort. And comfort is incredibly expensive. So if earning more isn't the answer, what actually builds wealth? The difference comes down to one shift, and almost nobody makes it. Income versus ownership. Most people with $150,000 salaries own things that cost them money. Wealthy people own things that pay them money. That's it. That's the whole game. Here's the uncomfortable difference. High earners sell time. Wealthy people own leverage. When you make $150,000 a year, you're valuable. But the moment you stop working, the money stops too. High earner, bigger house, newer cars, private school, expensive lifestyle wealth, builder, investments, equity, businesses, assets that produce cash flow. One looks impressive, the other builds independence, and they are not the same thing. You don't feel rich at $150,000 because deep down, you know you're still dependent. Dependent on your employer. Dependent on your next paycheck. Dependent on everything staying stable. That's not freedom. That's high maintenance stability. The shift isn't earn more. The shift is this. Start converting income into ownership. Every raise you get should increase your assets, not your lifestyle. If your income grows 20% and your lifestyle grows 20%, you didn't get freer. You just built a more comfortable prison. Real wealth starts when your investments begin covering your fixed expenses, not when your salary hits a bigger number. When your assets start paying your bills, that's when the pressure drops. So if you're making $150,000 a year and still feel broke, it's not because you're failing. It's because you're playing the income game instead of the ownership game. Income makes you look successful. Ownership makes you free. There's nothing wrong with earning $150,000 a year. That's an achievement, but if you build a $150,000 lifestyle instead of a $150,000 investment strategy, you'll always feel one paycheck away from stress. The people who look rich aren't always wealthy, and the people quietly building assets don't always look impressive. So here's the real question. If your income disappeared tomorrow, how long would your life continue without changing? That's your real wealth number, not your salary, not your job title, not your car. Because freedom isn't about how much you make. It's about how long you last. High income buys comfort. Ownership buys options. And options are what freedom actually feels like. If this made you uncomfortable, good. That's where the shift starts. And if you're serious about moving from income to ownership, stay here. Because this channel is about building leverage, not just paychecks. Most people chase income. A few build leverage. Decide which one you are. Build ownership. I'll see you in the next one.